Hey, Focus Miss Gaming here. Welcome in, and today we're going to talk about Venusaur and look at some of the viability within the draft structure. So if you're unfamiliar with draft, it's where you have a set of people, you pick a bunch of different mons from a board that are worth a certain amount of points, and then you construct your team week to week and go from there. So the first mon we're looking at is usually the first mon most people encounter, or one of them being Venusaur in the games. So Venusaur, I've kind of tiered off, and we'll see this later in the series, what their general stats are, their abilities, and different movesets, and what kind of makes them viable, and why you should or maybe shouldn't take them, and maybe if you don't take them, how do you play against it as well. So, looking off, its stats are pretty average across the board. Venusaur, and that's not a bad thing at all, really. Having good roll compression within a draftable mon is really important for giving you flexibility on what kind of sets you actually want to play. So I ranked it about B's to B plus on just about everything except on the special side, which is a little bit better, and that's where most of its sets are going to come in. But if you actually do need to use the attack, it can be used in a pinch. It's got decent coverage as well. So going from there, the typing, it's got some very common weaknesses, but if you decide to draft Mega Venusaur, some of those go away. We're talking Fire, Flying, Ice, and Psychic. All of those are pretty commonly offensive types, or you'll see them on very offensive mons. So Venusaur's got some competition out there, but it has very good resists as well, being Grass, Electric Fairy, Fighting, and Water. So nothing egregious. It's got no immunities, but it's all pretty balanced, you'd say, at this point. From its stats and to its typing, it's got clear strengths and weaknesses, and you'd expect that out of a starter Pokemon. It gets a little bit more interesting, though, when you get to talk about the abilities, because Chlorophyll is fantastic in draft. There's whole strategies around drafting sun teams. I've drafted quite a few weather teams in my day, and there's some good ones and some bad ones, but Venusaur's really nice on those teams if you want it as your fast grass type. And it has a decent speed tier to use Chlorophyll and outspeed most other mons, unless they're like already really fast and they're choice scarfed. Overgrow, you'll never pick Overgrow most of the time, unless you're not going with a sun team and you really want to say like, oh, I want that Giga Drain to pop off when I'm at 25%. Like, sure, go for it, man. And then you got Thick Fat if you go Mega Venusaur, which kind of leans into a much different strategy, which is the I'm fat and I'm going to take as much damage as possible, and it goes to much more of a balanced mid-range approach to draft. So there's some really good options you have here, but your important moves to think about is you got Sludge Bomb, Giga Drain, Energy Ball for your basic stab coverage, Leaf Storm if you really want to do like a Choice Specs or a Choice Scarf set and do a lot of damage instantly. Solar Beam is your sun setting ability, or a sun abusing ability, I should say, for doing damage. And then you have Poison Jab for on the physical side, as well as Petal Blizzard if you want to do a physical Venusaur, which you can do, but it's not the strongest set if you're looking for raw damage output, even if you do like a growth or something like that. And then your utility, it actually gets pretty decent utility. Synthesis and Leech Seed are going to be your recovery. You got Knockoff, which is actually really important for draft. Removing items and clearing the way for hazards is super nice. And then you got some status effects like Sleep Powder and Toxic. You even get screens as well. You get Reflect and Light Screen. And you also get Substitute too. So it gives you another type of setup option if you like that. But you'll notice there isn't anything that's like super directly boosting. I didn't mention growth, but growth is here explicitly for those kind of sunsets, but it's a little unreliable. It's not like clicking Swords Dance or Iron Defense or Nasty Plot or Calm Mind, which this mon would be really good with something like Calm Mind, but I digress. It doesn't exist on it. And then you got your coverage, you got Weather Ball, which has decent options. Earth Power is probably the most important coverage move because it hits electric types. And then you have Terra Blast, which you could argue is a little bit more, but there is the cost of taking it as your Terra captain if they allow Terra in your draft league. And then EQ is your physical Earth move, which even with like the 10 more base power to the move, Earth power is probably your better bet. So that's kind of the general overview, and we're going to look at team fits and then look at some sample sets of what some Venusaur sets might actually be workable for you. So the overall idea of drafting Venusaur is you got a sunny day weather team, and we're going to talk about some of the partners a little bit later on, or you just want a decent mid-range tempo T-spike absorber that has some weaknesses. You need a like a water and electric resist. So you're like, hey, I'm just gonna pick up Venusaur. It's gonna be pretty good. It's a poison type that's not weak to Earthquake, which is really nice. Unfortunately, I can't throw back T-spikes, but that'd be great too. But you can't have everything. You get Leech Seed at least, and you can spread some status. You get your toxics that are 100% accurate, and it can be a little bit bulkier too if you want to use the Mega form instead of the just base form, which Mega Venusaur is a very popular pick for people that are looking for those kind of stable walls of their team with minimal resistances, because again, if you pick Mega Venusaur, you're only going to be weak to Flying and Psychic, and those are really easy to mitigate with building out your team by, say, picking up a Steel type or a Dark type and an Electric type, and you're pretty much covered. So that's pretty nice. So looking over at our teams, I have built a team for us that is all Venusaur. I got 6 different sets for us to look at, so we got 2 sun sets that we're checking out first. First is your basic Sun Venu. This is the idea. If you're coming in with Sun already set up for you, you got a Life Orb for maximum damage output, you're not going to be clicking Growth, which is the next set, and you just want to fire off as much as possible. Stats, you're running plus nature on special attack because, again, you're expecting to be faster than just about everything at this point, and you're just going to be clicking buttons. It's the least creative, I'd say, of the Venusaur sets because you're just looking for big damage and big numbers, and you're running all the coverage options. You got fire coverage with Weather Ball, and then grass, ground, poison. Pretty straightforward, and just because it's simple doesn't mean it's like bad or anything. Like, this is a very decent set for wall breaking. It's very nice. Next, you have our second version of Sun, which is Weather Ball, Terra Blast, Growth, Earth Power. So we're sacrificing a little bit of the coverage options we're foregoing some stab, I should say. The spread's still about the same. You might run plus speed nature if you really need it, depending on your matchup, or if you're expecting a particular one. The choice scarf, that's going to try to edge you out and like speed creep you. Rocking heavy duty boots so you don't get chipped down. If that's important, because we have growth on here, because Venusaur is going to take a turn, it's going to buff up, and then it's going to start blasting. And right here we have Terra Fairy, and I should have mentioned the previous one, the other one's Terra Fire, to kind of flip the type advantages. So here it's, again, we're looking at Fairy coverage, Fire coverage, and ground coverage. We're not going with grass or poison. Again, you can mix and match what you need depending on your matchup, but again, this is kind of a different flavor of Sun because you're taking a turn, you want to set up, and you might not want to rock heavy duty boots at the end of the day as well. You might want to say like, hey, I want Citrus Berry, or I want Black Sludge because I want passive Regain, even though Black Sludge probably isn't good on this. You probably want like the immediate berry heal if you really want that. Yeah, so that's kind of your Sun Veno, is you're looking to get in, buff up, or you're just going to fire off shots, and you're going to probably run as most commonly it's going to be specially attacking. So moving down through some Veno sets, we got Bulky Veno. So I got 2 Bulky Veno sets for us, each of them a little bit different flavors. We have Eject Pack, and both are rocking Overgrow. You can run Chlorophyll on these, but the ability here for Bulky Veno, and this is base Veno. We're going to talk about Mega Veno in a second, but base Veno is more often or not, it's going to be a special wall. It can be the defensive wall for the physical side if you really need it to be. But Eject Pack, if you're not familiar, if your stats get lowered, you switch to a chosen ally. And on this guy, let me go back down. We've got Leaf Storm. So you can proc your own eject pack. That way you can it gives you a pivot, because Venusaur lacks a pivot move, and being able to do that and get positive momentum on your opponent's really important, especially if they think, oh, this guy's just going to sit on me, he's going to click Toxic, he's going to click Synthesis, they're going to click Roar, so you prevent the opponent to set up on you. So it's just kind of a nice little set, but it's also one of those where if you get figured out early on, it's not that great later. It's really good as like a, oh crap, I gotta stop this guy from sweeping me kind of moment. And if you can't wear them down Toxic later. If you can, then great, you're golden. The other one is the Light Clay Venusaur, which I haven't seen very often in draft, but because it gets both screens and it doesn't die to a stiff breeze like something like Smeargle, you can run this if you really want. So I throw on Reflect Light Screen, you get Roar, so you don't get, somebody doesn't click Substitute on you while you're trying to throw up screens for your more aggressive sweepers, and you also get Toxic as well. So if they're just trying to set up in your face, you can click Toxic and be like, well, you can stay in and take chip damage while I have screens up, or you can leave. Pretty simple option. Running plus speed on this because odds are you want to get the screen up and you're not looking to get outsped by some of the other mons. Say like a Nidoking, for example. I'm not sure if we actually have speed Nidoking. I'm pretty sure you have speed Nidoqueen though, but you get the idea. You don't want to get left behind in the dust before you can get your actual support moves out for your other Pokemon. And then we're looking at Mega Venu. So Mega Venu is very much in that tone of, we're going to plop down and we are just going to hold the fort down as much as possible. So the first set is one of the more common physically defensive sets. So we have Cursed, Knockoff, Toxic, Leech Seed. This is obnoxious. If the opponent does not have an immediate flying type or psychic answer, odds are you're going to be sticking around for quite a while if they don't have a really good special attacker. The other side is Venusaur, the Mega version, does get a pretty hefty boost to its special attack. Its special attack, I believe, is 122. Yeah, so it goes up at least a decent half grade on that. The speed is still pretty low. It's around 80. So you can run something like Trailblaze and then coverage, and it doesn't have the immediate punch that, say, like Life Orb, Sun Sweeping Venusaur has in that kind of first set that I showed you, but it's a lot less reliant on your other teammates. This is a very self-sustaining mon that you throw it out there and you're like, hey, if I get a speed boost and they just don't have answers and can't call me back from clicking Giga Drain and Sludge Bomb, I'm kind of golden. Or I'm at least taking a mon or two with me before they get those answers online. Whereas Mega Venu, this first version, is I'm fat and I'm here to cause problems. and that can be really obnoxious, and that's where you kind of draw out the game and get a lot of value out of Leech Seed and Toxic. And I put Curse on here because, one, it buffs up Knockoff if you like that, so people don't set up screens on you, because Toxic and Leech Seed are very susceptible to that, and that at least gives you a way to break through, as well as buffing your defenses. And Venusaur here really doesn't care about being outsped necessarily, is you're just wanting to survive. So those are kind of the ideas of Venusaur, of why you might want to take them, and you see there's a lot of variants here, which is super cool, right? Like, if you want the offensive version, you can get that. If you want the more defensive support version, you can get that. And it can change on a week-to-week basis of what kind of flavor of mon you want. In draft, like I said at the beginning, that's super important, because you don't necessarily know what your opponent is going to bring every week, but you can control what you bring. And having that kind of flexibility, I think, is one of the most underrated and important things you can have, especially in draft, when you have such a limited pool of resources when you're going from the onset of planning. So let's talk what Venusaur's competition and friends actually look like, right? Because it's more than just about Venusaur, it's about how this puzzle piece fits in with everybody else. And so we'll talk about items in Terra as well. So items, the most common items I would suggest for Venusaur is going to be heavy duty boots, that's going to be a staple for most Mons, is just being immune to hazards is very nice. Black Sludge, since you're a poison type, do not take this if you are intending to use Venusaur as your Terra Captain, because then it'll start damaging you unless you're picking Terra Poison. Life Orb, if you need the immediate boost, like I said before, and you're not wanting to click Growth. Lefties, if you're Terra only. Again, why I say lefties only for Terra and Black Sledge otherwise is because it's trick insurance. And if somebody has, say, like a Rotom Wash and they try to trick off your heavy duty boots or something, or lefties, they get a Black Sludge and they start taking damage, which is really nice. Eject Pack is another one. I listed that above on one of the prior sets. Again, getting free momentum is really good if you can proc it yourself, but it can also happen off of things like Intimidate. And then you got Rocky Helmet, so if you want to go more physically defensive, if you know they're going to have like a physically offensive electric type that's physical for some reason, we'll talk about one of them later on, or a physical water type, you might just slap on Rocky Helmet and be like, hey, you're going to take some chip, I'm going to recover some stuff with lefties, or not lefties, Leech Seed. You can also use Assault Vest. So Assault Vest is really nice since Venusaur has kind of just some set coverage. It doesn't have too many options. So if you run, let's say, one of these sets up here, if you're going to run Weather Ball, Grass Move, Earth Power, Sludge Bomb, and you want to use Assault Vest instead of Life Orb, and you're like, hey, I don't need the extra firepower, but maybe you go like Terra Water and they have Thunderclap on Raging Bolt, and you're like, I just need the insurance so I don't die to crit. That I could see existing in that kind of realm. And then you got your resistant HP berries. So Payapa Berry, I believe, is the psychic one. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I didn't look it up earlier. Payapa Berry, and then there's Koba Berry for flying types. Those are going to be the big ones to think about, but there's also like Yachi Berry, if you know they got like an iron bundle or something and they're going to click Freeze Dry into you, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to throw in Yachi Berry and I'm going to go back with I'm going to click Manual Sunny Day and then just threaten with Solar Beam. It's totally doable. Terra options. Fire is really nice for the Weather Ball strat, or just having Terra Blast Fire to give you that extra coverage. Stab options. Most Mons like stab options as a Terra because you get that damage boost, which is really nice. And then there's Fairy and Water for your more defensive kind of options. You could also throw in stuff like Steel, but with already being Poison or picking Fairy, I don't think it's as necessary. So those are the options. That's kind of what like the setup is, and you can obviously rock different stuff than this, but those are the most general sets I've seen with Venusaur being used before. Which brings us to common allies, enemies, and prey that you might find in drafts. So what's it good with, what's it bad against, and what is it good against itself? So on your team, if you're like, hey, I want to draft Venusaur, but I don't really know who they go good with. So the first one, you can see the second one too, but first one's Torkoal. Torkoal is really good for some teams. It's going to be probably a staple. It's probably also going to be a little overpriced too, just because of drought. It's the tax. Regular Ninetales can also be used, or you can pick my favorite Sunsetter in Vulpix. But again, that's not for everybody. Some people are like, I just want Torkoal so I can get Rapid Spin and I can get that guarantee. I think Ninetales is slightly better, but that's maybe just my take. So yeah, Torkoal, it's going to be setting Sun for you, so it saves up a move slot for Venusaur. If you are running Sun as well, you also can run something like Walking Wake. I think Walking Wake is probably the best mon to use Sun effectively. It gives you the type variation, so if you go Torkoal, Walking Wake, Venusaur, you have your Fire, Water, Grass core, which is really nice right off the bat, and they all work really well together. So you get a lot of coverage, and you get a lot of type variation, and you get also, I would say they all pretty much special attackers, but Venusaur can run mixed, and Torkoal can also do kind of the same. It can do like body press shenanigans and stuff. So it's really good if you want that as your Sun, kind of like core things, and then you can start adding other pieces to like help support you in there. Another one, if you don't want to go weather and you're like, hey, I just want a regular fire grass core, Blastoise. Blastoise is really nice. It's got pivot, it's got hazard control, it's got decent coverage. It can do a lot of the other similar support stuff or offensive stuff. You can do Shell Smash and stuff to like complement defensive Venusaur. It's also non-weather reliant again, so it doesn't really require anything. And it does have moves like Flip Turn to help get Venusaur in if you want to set up. Another one, good old Lando. So Lando is your electric type check, pivot, so it prevents fast electrics from volt switching out and gaining momentum on you, and allowing for potential setup and sun. So it's just nice. Again, Lando is, you have a good ground type. It does leave you a little weak to ice if you're not rocking Mega Venusaur, but regular Venusaur can make it work. I think it does work better with Mega. That's just my take. If you don't have the opportunity to get Walking Wake, Roaring Moon is also a really good Sunmon that you can take on, and it's also a Psychic check. So if anybody's got a Latias or something that they know, hey, I need to have like Scarf Latias, you can throw in Roaring Moon and catch the Psychics or Miss Balls. And it's also a physical sweeper to complement the special side of Venusaur a little bit more. So if you look at Walking Wake and you're like, hey, I don't want to double down too much on special sweepers, you can take a Roaring Moon. It's really nice that way. Plus, it still gets things like pivot and setup and all of that other fun stuff. Lastly, partner for this, I would say this is more of a Mega Venusaur partner, which is Celesteela. So this is if you want to really double down on just being the obnoxious wall team that's really hard to break. It checks flying and psychic types for Venusaur. Remember, Mega Venusaur is neutral to fire, so that's your fire check, actually. You can also just pick up a water type, too, and do it that way. But you get a double down with Leech Seed and Toxic because each mon gets both of those. The only real issue with them, besides being very complementary type-wise, is they both have fairly low speed, and they can't really pivot into each other. If you're using Mega Venusaur and Celesteela, they don't have U-turn or any of those kind of moves. But if they are against a team, because I've drafted these two together before, and I've seen other people do it too, and it's really effective, is if the other team does not have a dedicated breaker to get through, like have a move pool that gets through both of them, it can be really hard to get through this duo just by themselves, and that's not even including like other support pieces that you might want to throw in. So it's very obnoxious. It's very decent as well. If you go like physical Celesteela and special Mega Venu or vice versa, they work pretty well together. They're very balanced. So those are the friends that you might want to draft with Venusaur. So looking at enemies, so what do you actually have to be worried about? So first one, Tornadus Therian. This mon is faster than you. It can pivot out of you. It's got Regenerator. It's just an insane mon overall. But it's also got flying moves that are gonna make you very vulnerable. If you're not using a Mega Venusaur, it's also got Heat Wave to hit you that way. So it makes picking a Resist Berry very unreliable. Also, there's no real penalty for Tornadus Therian using AV over boots because it has Regenerator and it can recover a lot of HP just by pivoting and being faster than you in general. So it can absorb sludge bombs and other things. Even if it gets poisoned, it doesn't really care. So that's one of the unfortunate things, is if you go against Tornadus Therian, you're going to need another game plan. You can try to pick a Terra type to muscle through it, but that forces you to pick things like, if you're in Sun, going Terra Ice, for example, or Terra Rock, which might be decent offensively. They might not expect it, but again, that's a lot of resources you're pooling to deal with one mon, where you might be overcommitting. Another one, this is going to be more of just a general threat for regular Venusaur. Mega Venusaur deals with Weavile okay, but regular Venusaur does not like Weavile. Weavile threatens with Triple Axle. It has really good attack with knockoff, and sometimes if it's EV'd right, it can survive your stab options or earth power and set up a Swords Dance, and now you're in really big trouble. It also has priority too. So if you're in Sun, remember ice moves don't get weakened in Sun. You're going to die is if you've picked a Terra type, like say grass or flying, you're gonna get killed by a shard. So be wary of Weavile. Another one, Skeledirge. So Earth Power does get around this, but if you go against Terra Skeledirge, this thing's gonna eat your breakfast. It's got Unaware, so you can't do any growth sets. It kind of shuts those down if you're trying to use those in Sun. It can tank stuff with AV or just really good defensive investment. And it's going to threaten you back with Torch Song. Even if you're Mega Venusaur, that is going to be something obnoxious to deal with. Because it's going to boost past your defensive capabilities eventually. So Skeledirge, mostly just Terra Skeledirge, because Earth Power is pretty spooky, but I have seen people use Balloon Skeledirge expecting EP to come out at them and being able to threaten immediately with Torch Song. So it's just something to be aware of and keep an eye out. Another one, good old Glow King. Man, this mon is annoying, but it eats your stab attacks, Shookaberry. It can absorb your Earth Power and get off a chilly reception and get positive momentum. It can use a Psychic move. It can use Side Noise, which is really good because it shuts down things like Leech Seed recovery. And it even has fire options too if it wants to go that way. It's very difficult to deal with. Now, does it win the long game against Venusaur? Depends on the set, right? But Glow King's not going to beat you by itself. It's going to either threaten you with some immediate damage and pivot out, or it's going to do T-spikes and stuff and force you to switch around, which is going to be, again, very more annoying to deal with, and it's going to let its teammates really handle you. Another one, Latios. Latios is very commonly drafted. It dodges your Earth Power. It's not weak to anything that you're packing unless you got Terra Fairy in the back, and it's going to probably just set up on you. If it's Terra Latios, I hope you packed your own body bag, because Terra Steel will probably make you very sad. But most leagues I've seen don't usually allow that for Latios or Latias, but you never know. Just something to be very wary of. The weather set, if it does go Terra Steel, is pretty okay with Weather Ball, but again, it's going to Calm Mind. Otherwise, it might not. And if it doesn't Terra, then you're still going to be in a pretty rough position. It does get moves too, like Refresh, so it can actually purge off Toxic, so it's pretty hard to deal with. Especially too, also if it runs Specs, it's going to be just plain faster than you. If it runs Scarf, it's also going to be just faster than you as well. Especially if you're trying to run like Counter Scarf or something for some reason, which I didn't list as an item that's good for it anyways. So those are the enemies of Venusaur in general. Are there more? Yeah, there's more. But these are mons that I almost always see get drafted in leagues, so you just got to be wary about them and like, hey, know your outs. Like, these guys are going to cause problems for you. Now, finally, there is Prey for Venusaur. So what's Venusaur actually going to dunk on that people like to draft? First one, Zeraora, or Zorora, however you pronounce it. Fighting electric moves, it just blanks them. You do have to be wary of acrobatics. That is the one set Zeraora can run. But in Sun, you outspeed with Chlorophyll, and you can just collect Earth Power and collect your trophy. There's also Clefable. Clefable's a staple for bulkier, kind of like, people love their bulky fairy types. Clefable, even with Terra, doesn't really save it that much. Venusaur's got the coverage to take it down. Clefable doesn't have insurmountable stats to where it's going to completely wall you off. Sun Veno really just chews through this set. There's also Gliscor. Gliscor, while being very defensive, it's more physically defensive than especially defensive, which Venusaur works really well against. If you're non-Terra, you're not going to be weak to EQ, you don't care about toxic damage, and you can win the war with Leech Seeds and clicking Sludge Bomb, usually. You can also go Terra if you want to just really destroy this thing and just go Terra Ice, and that's not going to work too much in like Terra Preview because they'll probably see it, but if you don't have Terra Preview, you'll probably get away with that. Sneak out a kill. And yeah, uninvested special defense will get Gliscor to a code by Weather Ball. Again, if it doesn't have Protect to kind of stall out your weather turns, that can be a little bit of a caveat. But again, you've got, if you EV your Venusaur correctly, you should be fine. Primarina is another really common pick. It's the opposite of Venusaur. They work well enough together on the same team, but Venusaur is a natural counter to Primarina, with both of its types being effective against both of Primarina's types. Even though they're both specially cited, for instance, Venu just wins the war in that kind of respect. Even if Primarina picks like Resist Berries or the CM set or stuff, you can just click Toxic. You're faster, right? They're not going to substitute on you, right? You're going to just win that opportunity. And then there's Petrarunt. Petrarunt's main gimmick is being physically bulky and clicking Malignant Chain onto foes to make them toxic and confused. And guess what? You're a poison type. You can't get toxic. Now, you are neutral to it because being a grass type as well, you're going to be weak to that. But you have Earth Power, which is going to hit on the weaker side of Petrarunt, so you're going to force it to usually click something like Parting Shot, but guess what? You can rock something like Clear Amulet, which is really nice against Petrarunt. And then if you want to be really cheeky, you can go Covert Cloak, and you can pick a Terra type that is not poison and kind of bait in Malignant Chain, and if you're EV'd correctly, they might be clicking that move a few extra times and wondering why you're not getting poisoned. So, like if you go Terra Water, for instance, it's kind of a fun little thing. So, keep that in mind. So, those are some good opponents to see. It's like, if you see somebody on the team, or an opponent that has these mons on a team, you're like, hey, I can kind of take advantage of that. Or you might have an ability or an opportunity to have your teammates put you in a position to win against them. Again, these are not the only mons that are good, but if they share similar qualities of other drafted mons that Venusaur's against, odds are you'll do pretty okay. So overall, optimal drafting round. It's a mid-tier value. You're going to draft it between somewhere 3 and 6. I would only draft it at 3, is if you really like Mega Venusaur, because that tends to go a little bit earlier, maybe like between 3 to 5. Or you're building the Sun team. So it's, say you picked Walking Wake, you picked Torkoal, and then you don't want to lose out on Venusaur, so you take Venusaur. Otherwise, if nobody picks up Weather, or they go with a different Weather abuser, you can pick up Venusaur as just a pretty good quality mon, or because they can manually set Sun for themselves, so it's not that big of a deal, and you still get all that utility and defensive profile. So that's pretty good. That'll be about a wrap for Venusaur. Yeah, we got Charizard next. Woohoo! It's a fun mon. I recommend it. It's definitely draftable, whether you're playing PAL decks or NatDex. I mostly talk about this through a NatDex lens. If we look up here, yeah, we're looking at NatDex draft. But in prior gens, I can't comment too much on like Gen 3 on like. I know some leagues run like older gen format drafts, but it's still probably pretty decent. It's never been left behind the dust. It's not a world beater, but again, you're never going to be mad or sad about really having it if you pick it up in the middle of the rounds. Otherwise, thanks for listening. This has been Folksimus Gaming. If you have any other cool Venusaur sets you want to drop in the comments, or let me know, share with other people, like, hey, this worked really well for me and I want to share it, leave it down below. Share the fun. See what people have made, and if you agree or disagree, let me know as well. All right, I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.